It is truly a pleasure to join you here this evening. Oh, a rose. How lovely. Thank you. Thank you. So, as we begin, I'm sure you've already done a land acknowledgement, but I want to say very specially on my own that we honor the lands that we're on, which have been the site of flora and fauna and human activity since time immemorial. It has been traditionally cared for by the Huron, Wendat, Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations. I also take a moment to acknowledge all that has been stolen in this intergenerational, brutal, pervasive, and relentless, and we often forget, ongoing crime against humanity, referred to as colonization. As a result of the crimes committed, the colonizers created treaties with Turtle Island's First Nations, Indigenous, and Métis caretakers, agreeing to peaceably share the land and its resources. This has made us all treaty people. I acknowledge that we have work to do to actively bring honor to our treaty commitments. And so I begin today, and I can introduce myself in the way that we do in African culture, which is to say, I am the daughter of Claudia and Tony, the granddaughter of Iris, Edna, Cyril, and Lawrence. And I stand here before you today honoring their dreams and hopes for my generation and passing them on to the generation to come. So as was said, I was chosen as the first Black person to be CEO for a Children's Aid Society. And the significance of that, I think, was very much more important to my mom and dad. But I felt, thank you. But I felt actually mixed feelings about that. And I know that might sound strange because I do understand that it is considered an honor. However, it was 2021 and we're here in Canada. And just as the last speaker alluded to, there are jobs, there are skilled people, what's the problem? And so in that, I suggest to you that we have more work to do. And I know we've already had a CAS CEO of South Asian descent, but we need more people who understand the situation, the position that we are in as newcomers, as well as a diverse perspective that we will bring to all of these types of leadership roles. So I'm with you on that. And the other thing is that some people have said that one of the reasons why they give positions to people of color in situations where there's a huge issue going on, that's the time when we're called in. And so it's not a secret that at York CAS, there was a really significant issue to address in the internal culture. And underway right now is the transformation, and I want to talk to you about the significance of now. The opportunity of all of these appointments, the focus on diversity, equity, inclusion by organizations has to represent an opportunity for us to really bring our skills and experience and to stand up in our position. So really, the significance of now and the significance of this moment is not about people like me. It is about the future generations. Do you agree? Ashe, that's good. So children, however, absorb our energy. They take their cues from us. And we have the ability, therefore, through them to create the new world that we desire. They take everything in. As a matter of fact, my husband was telling me a story of a coworker of his when he was working for the Ontario Ministry of Health. And this gentleman was driving in a car every day with his little son a toddler in the car seat. And one day, someone cut him off
And the little son said a word which I won't repeat here, but let's say it's a word for poop, for the word that I'll use is poop head. He called the person who cut his father off a poop head. And his father was astonished that as a toddler, he could say these words. And so that struck me as not a surprise at all, because children take it all in. They listen, they absorb. And so we have a role to play in helping them to understand that. They also get the message about our identities and what they mean in relation to each other, the basis of their esteem. And in child welfare, we're taking the steps to address how children's identity is considered in assessing their fit in the family and the situation in each family. And so I'm really happy to be part of that change. Social workers are taking equity into consideration. Not that it was not a concern before, but as we learn more about our personal biases, we're learning more about the need to put personal reflection into our daily routine and approach to each interaction with our families and coworkers. I want to say that it's a revolutionary time for us to be in leadership roles. And I'm not the first leader from a marginalized community. I join staff who have taken leadership roles, and I've met many of you here tonight who have been in leadership roles within CAS. Just because you have not been at the top does not mean that you have not been in a leadership position. And so I honor that, and I try to honor that with my work. And I want to say, too, that sometimes I think I am not the one who has been chosen for this position. This position chose me because I was enjoying a career in community services, and I did not have this vision to come into this role. But I tell you that 80% of the preparation for the jobs that we do in leadership as leaders of people from marginalized communities has to do with spiritual leadership and understanding that the role that we take on is not meant to benefit us, and it isn't about our career, but it is about what we can do to move Canada into a place of leadership and where diversity is respected and honored. I call on the wisdom of the children, the youth, the parents, aunties, uncle, grandparents, the staff, and other leaders, all who support the vision for children to succeed. So how do we get there? How do we get to the inclusion of everyone? And I have just 5 small suggestions for you as to how we can get to that society that includes everyone. First is personal reflection. Are you truly comfortable with the notion of inclusion of everyone? How does it make you feel? And what do you think about? Is there fear, joy, hesitation, doubt, or is it aspirational to you? Really think deeply about that. Secondly, a challenge. I challenge us, if we are going to get to that inclusive society, we have to know about each other. I learned a little bit tonight about your language, about how this organization was formed. But I'm saying you also need to make sure that the young people in your community know your history, but also the history of others. Because as we grow, lost my paper. There are common elements to our experiences. Colonialism, stolen land, labor either through slavery or indentureship, stolen resources, identity, economic exploitation, and the brain drain. And so we need to reflect on all of these things and understand where there are common experiences so that we can support each other. Thirdly, grace and humility. See ourselves in others. The business of any oppressed person is our business. It requires a daily commitment on behalf of our current goal. It requires prayer. meditation, and I have sticky notes that I write to remind myself to act and to think, not as competitors for a place in the new society, but as equal beings entitled to a place in the new society that we build together with open hearts. Fourthly, interdependence and understanding of interdependence. Highly developed, nurtured, and cultivated understanding of our common humanity and the links between us as oppressed, oppressor, and ally. Because we know racism and all of the other isms are like rain. Everyone gets wet when the rain falls. So the simple idea of accepting the obvious truth that we're all having a human experience together on this planet is difficult to grasp in the context of ideologies of cultural and racial supremacy. And in Canada, our nation is built on some very solid structures and beliefs of racial supremacy, as we have learned from laws like the Indian Act, the Continuous Journey laws, and most recently, the Laicity Bill in Quebec, banning the wearing of religious symbols. So understanding interdependence requires empathy and the ability to see ourselves in the struggles of others, and also to celebrate the victories of others. The fifth and final is courage. Courage to speak with love, to speak the truth, to interrupt and disrupt the silence. We are challenged to say something to disrupt injustice when we see it, to use our privilege to speak into silences, to challenge the attitudes rooted in white supremacy. It's a chance to speak up in conversations around our dinner tables, in our churches, our mosques and temples. Address our aspirations toward fair skin and straight hair. It's present in my culture too. Straight noses. You know, my grandmother used to tell me that the children, when they were born, they used to take the clothespins that you use to hang clothes up and put it on the children's noses so that their nose would straighten and not be flat. And so skin bleaching sells out in Nigeria, in Jamaica, and I know it's present in parts of India as well. We talk about good hair and light eyes. This represents anti-blackness alive and living in our cultures. From Filipino to Chinese to South Asian to Middle Eastern, the only people moving in the other direction towards being tanned are the white folks who are putting on bronzing lotions to try to look like us. We have to speak up, have the courage to address individualism and separateness as communities. We have a dream to fulfill. And that dream is of a Canada that is multicultural, inclusive, and powerful. I'm going to leave you with two quotes from two of my favorite ancestors. One is Nelson Mandela. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. And Mother Teresa, who said, not all of us can do great things, but we can all do small things with great love. Ashe, thank you so much for your attention.